Obviously, this is the time of year where you try to make your roster, in the best position possible to go compete in the 25 season. And so, there's always a lot going on because you're obviously you're getting yourself ready for this bowl game, and then obviously with the transfer portal, you're doing a good job of having great communication with your current players, and then trying to acquire great talent, out of the transfer portal. And so Kelby's a guy that a number of us had a relationship with before, Freddie Roach in particular, and Alabama guy that has had production in the SEC, and looking forward to seeing what he does with us.
From what you've seen of him, does he look like a bandit or a wolf?
Yeah, I think he'll be a bandit for us. Play the field defensive end position, and he's a big man. I mean, and so it would be exciting to kind of get out there and work with him. And obviously, when you go through this, you watch tons of tape, anything that you can get your hands on, just to see what the guy's skill set would be, and then you talk to a million people and try to figure out exactly where you place him. But I think guys like that are big frames that are still developing, I don't know if we want to put him into any one box in particular. That's where he will start, and then to me, it's wherever he helps the team best.
And at that spot, just how much conversation have you had with Jamarian and LT about what their future plans might be?
Yeah, so obviously, LT will stay at that position in the field, and then the nice thing about Zebo, Jamarian, he's been going back and forth playing the Wolf position and the bandit position, which has been huge for us. I mean, it was a lifesaver the last 2 games, being able to have him, play both positions, and athletically, even though he's 280 pounds, right? The dude can move in space. He can drop under one to the boundary as a buzz dropper and do a lot of things for us. So a lot of value when you have guys that can play multiple positions. And then to me, like that's the same thing, creating value for guys at the next level in the NFL, right? Is they only get to carry 53 on their roster, and whatever it is, 48 dress. You better be able to play multiple things. And so I think that's part of my job as a coordinator to create value for these young men.
Obviously, is that the expectation that they'll both be back for next year at the moment?
Well, we're having all those conversations right now, but certainly those guys love Alabama, and we want what's best for them, and I think they want what's best for us as a football team, and hopefully those things all match up.
Obviously some movement at the Husky position as well. I mean, what have you seen during bowl practice of kind of what the future of that position is for you guys?
Well, I think, again, I mean, these are the times right now, like spring ball will be like this, fall camp will be like this, even more so than it was in year 1. But this is the first glimpse that you really get to start moving guys and working multiple positions to create depth, and I think that's the name of the game now in college football is, never again are we going to have maybe the same depth that you have always expected to have based off of the transfer portal and the way things work nowadays. And so with that, we've got to do a great job of identifying guys that can play the Husky position and the corner position, the rover position and the Husky position. And so to me, there's a number of guys right now that can do that. And we've already seen that, right, with Deshaun Jones. So Day-Day's doing it. Red Morgan is doing it, playing a little bit of corner as well. And then, I think some of these other guys that we're looking at, be it freshmen, be it guys on our current roster, and then also needs in the transfer portal that we're looking at to just to fit all the pieces the right way.
Does that position lend itself more to a safety or a cornerback, or does it just depend on?
It's a great question, and it's kind of the thing. It's been the evolution of the defense. So, like, when my dad, kind of was one of the originators of the 4-2-5 defense, you went from a Sam linebacker to the natural pull was to go to a safety, right? And then over the years, because the team's spreading the ball out and creating perimeter, game, sometimes, and if you're playing man coverage, that's a little bit more of a nickel. That has been a corner, but it's a unique skill set. You got to be able to do a little bit of both.
What have your conversations been like over the weekend with Jalen Blackway and his future? Obviously announcing that he's staying in Alabama for the next year.
Yeah, I think really excited. I think this is a time where there's a lot of people, a lot of voices out there, all those things. I think Jalen did what Jalen wanted to do, which he chose Alabama out of high school, and he chose Alabama now, and we're happy to have him.
Coach, with the roster dwindling down to like 65 players for the upcoming ball game, can you just talk about any guys that have just stepped up in practice, any position group, or any just player that didn't get a lot of playing time during the season but is getting their opportunity now in the ball game with more snaps coming up?
You know, the guy that I think, has really done a nice job, and we've seen him trend in the right direction all season long, is Xavier Mency. I think you'll see his role continue to grow within our defense, within the bowl game preparation, and then beyond that. So very excited about him and what he's doing. There's a number of young DBs that I think are going to be expected to step up in certain ways. But this is a fun time for me because you're developing players at each level, one, to have positional value and carry over, two, to be prepared for this bowl game, and then three, you get a little glimpse at what we have going into the 2025 season. So really exciting time to kind of maybe play with a guy here versus there and mess around with a couple techniques.
On the note of people playing at multiple positions, Jalen Mbakwe's been some kind of chatter about maybe him seeing some offensive reps. Just after seeing what he can do with the ball, I know you're on the defensive side, but do you think that his skills kind of translate over as well? And what do you feel about that?
I think Jalen Mbakwe is a great football player, and wherever he plays on our team, he makes our roster better.
Going back to Mency, how would you describe his skill set?
Mency is what's exciting, and this is something that I think Coach Saban tried to identify and do. It's something that we try to identify and do. Is you always want to get great coverage DBs, and then you figure out where they go. So, here's a dude that's 6'2", he's over 200 pounds now. He has great coverage skills because he's played a corner position his whole career, and now he's moved to the safety position. He has the physicality, he has the ability to diagnose, which certainly the safety position makes a lot more checks in communication and all those things. And then he's got a natural feel for when the ball's in the air as a post safety or a drop-in safety or all that stuff. So, to me, the sky's the limit for him, and I'm really excited to what I have seen from him thus far in the safety position.
How many of the receivers are the incoming receivers are here already, and is it hard to kind of maybe scout with such a limited number? Do you have enough people to be scout team receivers? Or?
We'll figure the numbers out and all that stuff. For me, from a defensive standpoint, I'm trying to make sure we get our roster right in a good position. So I couldn't tell you that I've seen exactly where.
But when you're using
like
scout team receivers, do you have enough? Do you have bodies for that?
We'll have enough. There is some give and take, right? And so you got to look at, even maybe some of the models moving forward that the NFL does when they have a more limited roster. They go more service periods, right? We might do a jog through period, whereas in the middle of the season we would have gone, full on good on goods, or full go against the scouts. So those would be the little nuances that you may have to tweak. But at the end of the day, we certainly have enough bodies to practice and get what we need done.
Inside linebackers, how big is it to have Jihad choose to play? And then also Justin Jefferson, Iron Bowl, I guess is his first time with the coach to helmet. Just kind of how did that go?
Well, I think when a guy like Jihad that, has done what he's done this season, and certainly where his value is, right, for an organization in the NFL coming up here soon, to say, I choose my team, I choose my teammates, I'm a competitor. I think it speaks to who he is as a young man. I think it speaks to the culture of this football program and this university, that this is a place that for a long time, no one individual has chosen themselves over the team on a consistent basis. And that, to me, is Jihad Campbell is a perfect example of that.
Just some of the young guys at that spot, or younger, I guess, Jeremiah, Justin. What sort of progress have you seen from those guys, knowing that there's going to be turnover at that position?
Yeah, I think you can point to a number of those young linebackers that are trending in the right direction right now. We're going to ask them to take a big step forward, in terms of, potentially what they may have to do moving forward this next year. And so learning the defense in year one and being young players, right, they are drinking from a fire hose, but they are certainly taking steps that we could identify to say we like the trend that they are on right now. And if they'll stay on that trajectory, I think they'll be able to help us.
One of the guys moving on, Damon Payne Jr., is apparently headed to Michigan. Is there any concern about him giving up the secret sauce?
Yeah, this is the world we live in right now, right? Transfer portal and signals and all that other stuff, right? You gotta figure those things out. We are aware of all dynamics in terms of what puts us in the best position to win the game, and so there's certain things that we'll have to do and adjust to make sure we don't get got.
Are you okay with the schedule how it is, with portal and bowl prep running at the same time, or how would you change it if you were running things?
Well, it's way better than where it was if we were all out on the road in the high school recruiting right now. Because to be able to say that, you've worked so hard, usually for a year and a half, 2 years, whatever it is. For us, it was 9 months, 10 months, right, to put a class together. But to be able to say, hey, at the beginning of December, those guys have signed on the dotted line. Now you can focus a little bit more on your team, your current roster, and then also identifying the needs that you have in the transfer portal. If it hadn't changed and gone like that, I'm not sure, people would have been running like chickens with their heads cut off more than we already are. And so that is something that, I think was a needed change, and it allows you to do what coaches should be doing year round, which is focusing on their current players, their roster.
How much?
A couple more questions.
How much more comfortable do you feel with the cornerback position now that you were able to kind of bring in more guys for next year, than you did at the beginning of this year?
Well, I mean, certainly we walk in day one, it was one of the things we knew we had to identify as, when Terrion walks out the door, and Kool-Aid walks out the door, and a couple of guys in the transfer portal and all that stuff. It was a need, right, that we had to identify who are those players going to be. Amazing, right, what the job that Damani Jackson and Xavier Brown did to step up in the moment. Deshaun Jones to come in and do the things that he did, both playing the corner and the nickel position, the Husky position. So we are certainly in a way more, experienced position than where we were before, and excited to, have a group of guys that have that experience, carry into this bowl game.
You've had 11 months now with Keon Keeley playing Bandit. How have you seen him develop playing with his hand in the dirt, and really where do you see him as far as impacting the defense?
Yeah, I'm as excited as I've ever been about Keon Keeley. I think Keon, obviously, was a very highly touted player out of high school, but again, that's somebody asked a question earlier, that's a perfect example of a guy that let's not pigeonhole him and put him in a box of you are this position or that position. Let's let him develop, as all big people do, right? It takes years to do that. And then he is getting more and more comfortable with the defense. But there were some plays that he made out there even today that I'm sitting there going, this guy is trending in the right direction. Keon Keeley will be a good player here at Alabama.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.